Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
On August 25, 2025, a very important meeting happened at the White House in Washington, D.C. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung made his first official visit to meet United States President Donald Trump. This summit was a special event for both leaders and their nations. The meeting was a true test of diplomacy and a key moment for the relationship between the two countries. Many people watched closely to see the outcome. President Trump and President Lee have very different leadership styles and political ideas. Their nations also have different needs. Because of these differences, some thought the meeting could be challenging. However, the summit showed something important: that even leaders with different views can find ways to work together. They needed to talk about difficult topics. These included trade agreements, military cooperation, and the complex issue of North Korea. They also discussed keeping the region safe for everyone. The talks in the Oval Office lasted longer than first planned. This meant the leaders had much to discuss and understand. It was not only about specific plans and rules, but also about building a better understanding. This meeting became a strong example of how allied countries can manage their relationship. It showed that common ground is possible, even in a world that is always changing. This important day helped both the United States and South Korea plan for a good future. 2. A difficult morning. The morning began with a big and unexpected problem. Hours before President Lee arrived at the White House for their important meeting, President Donald Trump posted a surprising message on his social media. He wrote, "What is going on in South Korea? Seems like a purge or revolution. We can't have that and do business there." This public message caused immediate confusion and worry. It made many people wonder if the high-stakes meeting planned for weeks would even happen. The atmosphere around the summit quickly became tense. President Trump's message was about recent law enforcement actions and investigations happening in South Korea. He spoke about police raids on certain places, like the Sarang Jail Church, where a conservative pastor had organized protests. He also mentioned actions related to a U.S. military base, specifically Osan Air Base. However, officials later clarified that these searches were only in South Korean-controlled areas and did not involve American military operations or personnel stationed there. These investigations were very significant. They were directly connected to former President Yoon Suk-yeol. He had declared martial law in December 2024, a move that led to his impeachment and removal from office. The current investigations aimed to understand these past events better and to hold accountable those involved. President Lee's team woke up to this unexpected challenge from President Trump. They had to think carefully about how to respond to such a direct and public statement before the talks even started. Instead of replying through official government channels or social media, President Lee chose a different, more personal approach. He decided to address the concerns directly during his face-to-face meeting with President Trump. Lee explained that these investigations were a vital part of South Korea's democratic process. He stressed that they were necessary to ensure accountability for what he described as an attempted self-coup. This direct and clear explanation helped ease the sudden tension. 3. The new president. Lee Jae-myung became the new president of South Korea. His life story was truly remarkable. He grew up in a very poor family. As a young child, he began working in factories to help his family. During this time, he suffered an industrial accident that caused a permanent injury to his arm. Despite these challenges, Lee kept learning and working hard. His journey from a factory floor to the presidential palace showed South Korea's own big change. It moved from a country controlled by a few people to a lively democracy where everyone could vote. President Lee, now 61 years old, was a leader from the Liberal Democratic Party. He tried several times to become president and finally succeeded in June 2025. His victory was more than just a change of leader. It showed a new direction for South Korea, both inside the country and in how it dealt with other nations. He had a fresh approach to foreign policy, especially concerning North Korea. The president before him, Yoon Suk-yeol, had a very strong and tough view on North Korea. But President Lee thought differently. He believed in talking and engaging with North Korea through diplomacy. This meant finding peaceful ways to solve problems and build relationships. While some people, especially conservatives, found this idea controversial, it was a core part of Lee's vision. This focus on dialogue also matched President Trump's desire to talk directly with Kim Jong-un. This common idea about North Korea would become a key point for agreement during their meeting, showing Lee's aim to use discussion for peace in the region. 4. A smart meeting. President Lee entered the Oval Office to meet President Donald Trump. He knew this meeting was very important. Lee wanted to start well, so he chose his words carefully to create a friendly atmosphere for their talks. First, President Lee praised the Oval Office. He told President Trump it looked very bright and beautiful, showing the dignity of America and a new future. President Trump seemed pleased by these compliments. This helped make the mood warm and open, setting a positive tone for their discussions. Lee also spoke about the strong American economy. He noted how well the stock market, the Dow Jones, was doing under President Trump's leadership. He said it showed America's great strength. These kind words helped build a good connection between the two presidents. Then, President Lee shared a creative idea. He talked about making lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. He suggested that President Trump could help achieve this. He even proposed building a Trump Tower in North Korea, complete with a golf course where they could play together. This idea smartly touched on President Trump's interests in real estate and making big deals for peace. Lee's preparation for the meeting was very thorough. His team said he had even read President Trump's book, Trump, The Art of the Deal. This helped President Lee understand President Trump's unique way of thinking and negotiating. These smart diplomatic actions helped turn a potentially difficult day into a successful start for the summit. 5. A big ship deal. President Lee and President Donald Trump next discussed a very important economic topic. South Korea presented a big plan to help the United States. This plan was for rebuilding American shipbuilding. It was worth $150 billion. This large effort was called Make America Shipbuilding Great Again, a name President Trump liked very much. This shipbuilding plan was part of an even larger deal. South Korea agreed to a trade agreement worth $450 billion. This big agreement helped reduce American tariffs on South Korean goods. Tariffs went down from 25% to 15%. The shipbuilding part was the largest piece of this larger deal. The United States now builds less than 1% of the world's ships. China builds 50%, and South Korea builds 30%. So this plan was very important for America to get stronger in this area. It included building new shipyards in the United States. It also promised training for American workers. South Korea would share its knowledge and technology for modern shipbuilding. For example, Korean Air, a South Korean company, made its largest ever aircraft order. They would buy 103 Boeing planes. This $12 billion order showed South Korea's commitment to buying American products. The larger $450 billion deal included more. $350 billion would be direct investments in American industries. Another $100 billion was for South Korea to buy American energy, like natural gas. The United States is a big seller of natural gas, and South Korea needs stable energy supplies. This big deal helped both countries. For the United States, it meant more jobs and stronger industries, especially in shipbuilding. It helped America's national security, as strong shipbuilding is crucial for its Navy. It also reduced the trade imbalance with South Korea. President Trump was satisfied, saying they stuck to their guns during talks. For South Korea, the deal meant lower tariffs on its goods. It also deepened their friendship and security alliance with the United States. This was a win-win situation, showing how two allied countries could work together on big economic goals. 6. Talking about North Korea. The leaders then moved to a very difficult and important topic, North Korea. For a long time, North Korea has been a big challenge for both the United States and South Korea. It is hard to find a way to stop their nuclear weapons program and bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. Both President Lee Jae-myung and President Donald Trump, however, shared a common goal. They both wanted to talk with North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, again. They hoped to start new discussions. President Trump, remembering his past meetings with Kim Jong-un, believed in direct diplomacy. He thought personal talks could lead to good results. He told reporters during their White House meeting that he hoped to meet Kim again this year. "I look forward to meeting with Kim Jong-un in the appropriate future," he said. This desire for talks came even though Kim Jong-un had not responded positively to Trump's offers since Trump returned to office in January 2025. North Korean state media had stated clearly that the United States must accept North Korea as a nuclear power before any meaningful talks could begin. This was a new and strong demand from Pyongyang. President Lee Jae-myung had a different idea about how to deal with North Korea compared to the previous South Korean president. Lee is a progressive leader and has always supported talking to North Korea, not just using pressure. He believes that diplomatic outreach is the best way forward, even with all the problems. He knows that North Korea keeps building more nuclear weapons and missiles, which makes progress very hard. During their serious discussion, President Lee gave President Trump some worrying new information. He said that intelligence reports showed North Korea could now produce between 10 and 20 new nuclear warheads every year. This was a big increase and showed how quickly North Korea's nuclear power was growing. Lee also explained that North Korea had mostly finished developing its intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. These are very powerful missiles that can reach faraway places, even the mainland United States. The only part they still needed to perfect was the technology for the missile's re-entry vehicle. This meant there was only a small window of time left for diplomatic action before North Korea could fully threaten America with nuclear-armed missiles. To address this urgent situation, President Lee put forward a smart idea. He suggested that President Trump think about attending the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, summit. South Korea would host this important event in October 2025. Lee believed this large international meeting could be a good chance for President Trump to meet Kim Jong-un. Such a meeting in a wider setting with other world leaders present might offer a way for all parties to save face and begin new talks about peace and denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. This could be a crucial step towards a more peaceful future. 7. Friends and soldiers. The military friendship between the United States and South Korea is very old and strong. It started in 1953, after the Korean War. This alliance is one of America's most important security partnerships in Asia. Today, about 28,500 United States soldiers live in South Korea. Most of them are at Camp Humphreys, which is the biggest American military base in Asia. These soldiers help protect South Korea from North Korea. They also help with bigger security issues in the region, especially with China's growing military power. President Donald Trump believes that friendly countries should pay more for their own defense. During the meeting, he asked South Korea to pay more for keeping U.S. soldiers there. He suggested that South Korea should give the United States the land where its military bases are, like Camp Humphreys, instead of just letting them use it. This was a new idea, different from how things were usually done. President Lee Jae-myung did not say no directly. He said South Korea would spend more money on its military. He promised to make the South Korean military smart and ready for the future. President Trump also wanted U.S. soldiers in South Korea to have more flexibility. This meant they could be used for military actions outside the Korean peninsula, perhaps against China if there was a problem over Taiwan. President Lee said this would be difficult to accept for South Korea. South Korea does not want its soldiers to be part of fights that are not directly about its own safety. South Korea also has a very important relationship with China. China is South Korea's biggest trading partner. So, South Korea must be careful to keep both its military friendship with the United States and its important economic ties with China. Before coming to Washington, President Lee visited Beijing. His team met with China's foreign minister to try and make their relationship better. Lee believes South Korea needs good relations with all big countries for its own benefit. This approach can be different from President Trump's strong opinions about China. It is hard for South Korea to keep a good economic relationship with China while also making its security ties with America stronger, especially as the United States and China often have problems. To make the region safer, President Lee also worked to improve relations with Japan. Before meeting President Trump, Lee visited Tokyo. He met with Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. This showed that Lee wanted the United States, Japan, and South Korea to work more closely together. This three-way friendship is important for dealing with China and North Korea. Lee and Ishiba agreed to make their countries' ties better, even though they have a difficult history. The United States wants Japan and South Korea to be good friends. This helps make the region more stable and reduces the burden on American forces. The final agreement. The meeting between President Lee and President Donald Trump was a great success for both leaders. It showed that good talking and smart diplomacy can solve difficult problems. The summit lasted longer than planned, turning a tense start into a friendly discussion. President Lee used smart ways to talk. He praised the Oval Office and the strong American economy. He even shared a creative idea about building a Trump Tower in North Korea. His preparation, like reading President Trump's book, helped a lot. This diplomacy made a positive mood for all the important talks. The leaders made many agreements that will help both countries for a long time. South Korea committed to a large plan, the Make America Shipbuilding Great Again initiative. This was a $150 billion investment to rebuild American shipbuilding. It was part of a larger $450 billion trade deal. South Korea also promised to buy many American planes and energy. These agreements will create jobs in America and help South Korea with its trade. They also discussed North Korea, a very difficult issue. Both leaders agreed that they want to talk with Kim Jong-un again. President Lee shared new information about North Korea's nuclear weapons. He suggested a possible meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un at an upcoming summit in South Korea. The military friendship was also important. President Trump asked South Korea to pay more for defense. President Lee said South Korea would increase its defense spending and improve its military. These discussions helped keep the alliance strong. The meeting also touched on South Korea's relationships with China and Japan, showing how South Korea balances its global partnerships. This summit is a good example for how allies can manage their relationships. It showed how two leaders, even with different ideas, can find ways to work together. It created a strong foundation for the future of the United States and South Korea. What do you think was the most important agreement made at this meeting?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.